So, I'm back to my book. I've got a really sore throat. I've just had some Manuka honey. I forgot I had that, or I'd have been taking it earlier. I haven't got like the strongest variety. It's supposed to cure everything though, Manuka honey. I don't really like the taste of it. I just had a spoon of it in my mouth. I was holding it in there for as long as I could. But eventually I had to swallow, and I swallowed it in 2 parts. I was sort of letting it dissolve and the saliva go down over my throat where it's, so I think it's because I've been coughing. Anyway, I'm going to be reading from my book. I was going to, already have done the breads that I'm gonna make with that sourdough starter, because it's ready already, because it's collapsed. There's enough for 3 loaves though. 1.5 kilos of bread. Anyway, probably a bit more in fact. I've forgotten what I was gonna say now. Oh yeah. I got watching the films about the undercover police. I thought there was only one of them, but I ended up watching all 3 together. I knew about that case before. I've just not seen it all laid out like that. Like the whole story from start to finish. The trouble is that there's all these agencies of the state. The government doesn't even know what's going on. And this is what they've done to me. They've been so desperate to discredit me. They've gone to massive efforts to discredit me, pretending to everybody that they were trying to help me, when they were just lying everywhere. They're still lying. Desperate to get something to stick on me. That's why they were so desperate to get me locked up in mental hospitals and diagnosed with fictitious illnesses. So they could just at least discredit me as a nutter, if not as a criminal. Or a sexual degenerate, which is what Rowan Williams had been saying, without a shred of evidence. And you know, the boys in the Diocese of Chichester who were complaining about Peter Ball, what the Church of England did was they hired a private investigator to try and dig up dirt on the boys who were making the allegations. And the private investigator found out that there wasn't any dirt, and in fact they were telling the truth. So they just buried his report. And Rowan Williams hired private investigators to investigate me as well. And this is what I mean when I say if they'd found anything they could blackmail me with, I wouldn't be in this situation. I'd be a bishop in the Church of England. So, the whole institution is a cesspit. It's an absolute cesspit. I'm not saying other organisations aren't infiltrated as well. But most other organisations aren't presenting themselves as the moral voice of the nation. This is why they're always virtue signalling in relation to left-wing politics. You know, about things that happened hundreds of years ago that nobody today can do anything about. It's really easy to be, how can I put it? Like, it's like they make out like they're confessing sins. Like, some people in the past enslaved some other people in the past. And they make out like they're confessing. But they're not confessing their own sins. They never confess their own sins. They're confessing the sins of other people to try and make themselves look good. And the more I've seen of this, I've seen so much of it. Decades, for decades, I've been seeing this now. And I know that this extreme political correctness very often covers sexual degeneracy. They're covering up their exploitative behaviour by trying to present a moral face and a sorrow for sins that they didn't commit in order to cover up the sins that they did commit and are still committing. And I've not seen anything at all that would convince me otherwise. They do recruit unsuspecting people into this ridiculous movement. But people don't stay in it long. Without some investment into covering up some unscrupulous behaviour of their own. And often it's sexual degeneracy, but not always. Anyway, I'm going to read my book now. Chapter 3. 3 kinds of harm received by the soul from not darkening the memory in regard to knowledge and discursive reflection. A discussion of the first kind. 1. Spiritual persons who still wish to make use of natural knowledge and discursive reflection in their journey to God, or for anything else, are subject to 3 kinds of harm and difficulty. 2 are positive and 1 privative. The first kind arises from things of the world, the second from the devil. The third kind, the privative, is the impediment and hindrance to divine union that this knowledge causes. There's a footnote here. The explanation that follows shows how the division into sense and spirit, with its corresponding books, is not clear-cut. 2. The first, coming from the world, involves subjection to many evils arising from this knowledge and reflection, such as falsehoods, imperfections, appetites, judgments, loss of time, and numerous other evils engendering many impurities in the soul. Clearly, spiritual persons, allowing themselves this knowledge and reflection, will necessarily fall victim to many falsehoods. Often the true will appear false, and the certain doubtful, and vice versa. Since we can hardly have complete knowledge of a truth, these persons free themselves of this if they darken their memory to all knowledge and reflection. 3. Imperfections meet them at every step if they turn their memory to the objects of hearing, sight, touch, smell and taste. By doing so, some emotion will cling to them, whether it be sorrow or fear, or hatred, vain hope, vain joy, or vain glory, and so on. All these are at least imperfections and sometimes real venial sins. They subtly contaminate the soul with impurity, even when the knowledge and reflection concern God. And it is also clear that appetites will be engendered, since they naturally arise from this knowledge and reflection, and the mere desire for this knowledge and reflection is already an appetite. Obviously, people also encounter many occasions to judge others, since by using their memory they cannot help but stumble on good or evil. I'm sorry, this sentence is a bit difficult. By using it, they cannot help but stumble on good or evil deeds of others. Perhaps there should be a "that" in there. Obviously, people also encounter many occasions to judge others, since by using their memory they cannot help but stumble on good or evil deeds of others. And at times, evil seems good and good evil. I am of the opinion that no one can really get free from all these evils without blinding and darkening the memory to all things. 4. You may say that humans are easily capable of conquering all these dangers when they come upon them. I reply that it is simply impossible to achieve this completely if one pays attention to this knowledge. For intermingled with it are 1,000 imperfections and fancies, some so subtle and slight that without one's being aware, they stick to the soul just as pitch does to anyone who touches it. These imperfections are better overcome all at once through complete denial of the memory. You may also object that the soul will suffer the loss of numerous holy thoughts and considerations about God that are helpful toward the reception of favours from him. I answer that purity of soul is more helpful toward this, for purity of soul consists in not having any attachment to creatures or any temporal things that cling to one, and in not paying attention to them. I think this attachment cannot but adhere to the soul a great deal because of the imperfections the faculties have of themselves in their operations. It is better to learn to silence and quiet the faculties so that God may speak. For in this state, as we pointed out, the natural operations must fade from sight. This is realized when the soul arrives at solitude in these faculties, and God speaks to its heart, as the prophet asserts. Hosea 2:14. 5. If you still insist claiming that a person will obtain no benefits if the memory does not consider and reflect about God, and that many distractions and weaknesses will gradually find entrance, I answer that this is impossible. If the memory is recollected as to both heavenly and earthly things, there is no entry for evils, distractions, fancies, or vices, all of which enter through the wandering of the memory. Distractions would result if, on closing the door to reflections and discursive meditation, we opened it to thoughts about earthly matters. But in our case, we close the memory to all things from which distractions and evils arise, by rendering it silent and mute, and listening to God in silence with the bearing of the Spirit, saying with the prophet, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." 1 Samuel 3:10. The bridegroom in the Song of Songs proclaimed that this was to be the attitude of the bride. My sister is a garden enclosed and a fountain sealed up. Song of Songs 4:12. That is, to all things that can enter it. 6. The soul should remain closed then, without cares or afflictions, for he who entered the room of his disciples bodily while the doors were closed, and gave them peace, without their knowledge how this was possible, John 20:19-20, will enter the soul spiritually, without its knowing how, or using any effort of its own, once it has closed the doors of its intellect, memory, and will to all apprehensions. And he will fill them with peace, descending on them, as the prophet says, like a river of peace. Isaiah 66:12. In this peace he will remove all the misgivings, suspicions, disturbances, and darknesses that made the soul fear it had gone astray. The soul should persevere in prayer, and should hope in the midst of nakedness and emptiness, for its blessings will not be long in coming. Chapter 4. The second kind of harm, which comes from the devil through the natural apprehensions of the memory. 1. The second kind of positive harm, possible from knowledge in the memory, is due to the devil. He has tremendous influence in the soul by this means, for he can add to its knowledge other forms, ideas, and reasonings, and by means of them move it to pride, avarice, anger, envy, and so on, and insert unjust hatred, vain love, and many kinds of delusions. Moreover, he usually so impresses images on the fantasy that the false ones seem true and the true ones false. And finally, all the greatest delusions and evils he produces in the soul enter through the ideas and discursive acts of the memory. If the memory is darkened as to all this knowledge and annihilated through oblivion, the door is closed entirely to this kind of diabolical harm, and the soul is liberated from these things, and that is a wonderful blessing. The devil is unable to do anything in the soul save through the operations of its faculties, and principally by means of its knowledge. Because almost all the activity of the soul's other faculties depends on its knowledge. If the memory is annihilated concerning this knowledge, the devil is powerless, for he finds no means of getting his grip on the soul and consequently can do nothing. 2. I should like spiritual persons to have full realization of how many evils the devils cause in souls that make much use of their memories, of how much sadness, affliction, vain and evil joy from both spiritual and worldly thoughts these devils occasion, and the number of impurities they leave rooted in the spirit. They also seriously distract these souls from the highest recollection, a recollection that consists in concentrating all the faculties on the incomprehensible good, and withdrawing them from all apprehensible things, for these apprehensible things are not a good that is beyond comprehension. Although the good derived from this void is not as excellent as that arising from the application of the soul to God, by the mere fact that such emptiness liberates us from much sorrow, affliction, and sadness, over and above imperfections and sins, it is an exceptional blessing. Chapter 5. The third kind of harm that follows from the natural, distinct knowledge of the memory. 1. The third kind of evil engendered by the natural apprehensions of the memory is privative. These apprehensions can be an impediment to moral good and deprive one of spiritual good. To explain how these apprehensions are a hindrance to moral good, one must know that moral good consists in bridling the passions and curbing the inordinate appetites. The result for the soul is tranquillity, peace, repose, and moral virtue, which is the moral good. The soul is incapable of truly acquiring control of the passions and restriction of the inordinate appetites without forgetting and withdrawing from the sources of these emotions. Disturbances never arise in a soul, unless through the apprehensions of the memory. When all things are forgotten, nothing disturbs the peace or stirs the appetites. As the saying goes, what the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't want. 2. We experience this all the time. We observe that as often as people begin to think about some matter, they are moved and aroused over it, little or much, according to the kind of apprehension. If the apprehension is bothersome and annoying, they feel sadness or hatred, and so on. If agreeable, they experience desire and joy, and so on. Accordingly, when the apprehension is changed, agitation necessarily results. Thus they will sometimes be joyful and at other times sad. Now they will feel hatred, now love, and they are unable to persevere in equanimity. The effect of moral tranquillity, unless they endeavour to forget all things. Evidently then, this knowledge is a serious impediment to possession of the moral virtues. 3. That an encumbered memory is also a hindrance to the possession of spiritual good is clearly proved from our remarks. An unsettled soul that has no foundation of moral good is incapable, as such, of receiving spiritual good, for this spiritual good is impressed only on a restrained and peaceful soul. Besides, if souls bestow importance and attention on the apprehensions of the memory, they will find it impossible to remain free for the incomprehensible who is God, for they will be unable to advert to more than one thing. As we have always insisted, souls must go to God by not comprehending rather than by comprehending, and they must exchange the mutable and comprehensible for the immutable and incomprehensible. I'm just looking at how far I'm reading to. Okay. Chapter 6. The benefits derived from forgetting the natural thoughts and knowledge of the memory. 1. From the kinds of harm occasioned by the apprehensions of the memory, we can also determine the opposite benefits that come from forgetting them. As the philosophers say, the doctrine for one thing serves also for its contrary. There's a footnote here that says, for this adage taken from what was called natural philosophy, compare Aquinas, Summa Theologia 1-2, 54, 2 and 1. In contrast to the first kind of harm, spiritual persons enjoy tranquility and peace of soul due to the absence of the disturbance and change arising from thoughts and ideas in the memory, and consequently they possess purity of conscience and soul, which is a great benefit. As a result, they are disposed excellently for human and divine wisdom and virtues. 2. In contrast to the second, they are freed from many suggestions, temptations, and movements that the devil inserts in souls through their thoughts and ideas, thereby occasioning many impurities and sins. As David says, they thought and spoke wickedness. Psalm 73:8. When the thoughts are removed, the devil has nothing naturally with which to wage his war on the spirit. 3. Contrary to the third kind of harm, the soul is disposed by means of this recollection and forgetfulness of all things to be moved by the Holy Spirit and taught by him. As the wise man declares, he withdraws from thoughts that are without reason. Wisdom 1:5. Even though no other benefit would come through this oblivion and void of the memory than freedom from afflictions and disturbances, it would be an immense advantage and blessing for a person. For the afflictions and disturbances engendered in a soul through adversities are no help in remedying these adversities. Rather, distress and worry ordinarily make things worse, and even do harm to the soul itself. Thus David proclaimed, "Indeed, every human being is disturbed in vain." Psalm 39:6. Clearly, it is always vain to be disturbed, since being disturbed is never any help. Thus, if the whole world was to crumble and come to an end, and all things were to go wrong, it would be useless to get disturbed, for this would do more harm than good. Enduring all with tranquil and peaceful equanimity not only reaps many blessings, but also helps the soul, so that in these very adversities it may manage better in judging them and employing the proper remedy. So I'm just going to talk about the time when I was sacked from my job. And I didn't do anything, I just sent them an email telling them to shove it up their arse. And I never wanted to work there anyway, which is absolutely true. And then I just didn't do anything. I just left it at that. Even though that was absolutely catastrophic. Apart from psychiatry, that was the most catastrophic thing that ever happened to me. Because I knew there was no recovery from it, you see. They were either just going to give me my job back for no reason, like they'd taken it off me for no reason, or they weren't. And nothing that I could do in that situation was going to alter it, because it was part of this hate campaign against me, where everybody's pretending to help. So I just didn't do anything. I just left it. Anyway, my friend Martin, who was my sponsor when I was received into the Catholic Church, I saw him and we were having a coffee in a coffee shop in town. And I saw him at Mass, because he was going to Mass at the cathedral at the time, and so was I, before they had me arrested. So they sacked me from my job in, I think it was July 2010. And then they had me arrested from the cathedral in September 2010, and then I was banned from going there. And maybe about 2 years after that, I started going there again, but it was a big mistake, and I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't been under the influence of psychiatric drugs, where I wasn't able to think straight, because then they just did all the same things over and over again, like constantly harassing me and having me kidnapped by the police every 2 minutes. So, anyway, they sacked me from my job, and I didn't do anything. Like, I didn't try to meet with them, I didn't complain about them. I was in a trade union, so I could have got in touch with them. But there was absolutely no point, because the people in the trade union were in on the conspiracy as well. So there's nobody to help me, because everybody's playing the same bloody evil mind games. So, like sometime after this, maybe a week or 2 weeks or a month, I can't even remember exactly how long it was, but it was relatively soon. And I was having a coffee with Martin, and Martin said to me, "You're supposed to be running round in a panic." And I said, well, what would be the point of that? You see, if I'd thought running round in a panic would have achieved anything, if I'd thought complaining about it, appealing against it, going to the trade union, if I'd thought that anything would resolve the situation, then I would have done it. But I knew perfectly well, because I'm very grounded in reality. I'm very grounded in reality as to what's actually going on. Other people are in denial about it. They don't want to think things are as bad as they are, and they're never being told the whole story. They're just being told a little part of it, and how playing spiteful mind games is going to help me in some miraculous way, when it never helps anybody else, only me apparently. So, like, I would have run around panicking, or I would have taken some action, or I would have done something, but I knew it was pointless, absolutely pointless, so I just didn't do anything. And it kind of ties into this, really. And the reason for it is I've got my mind very well rooted in reality, that everybody behind the scenes is being controlled to act against me. They're being told they're acting in favour of me, and it isn't true at all. And you can't reason with people who are so convinced that they're right. And even if I convinced one person or one group of people that the way they were behaving was wrong and they should stop it, they'd just sack them and get another bunch of people to act in exactly the same way. So it's completely pointless when they're controlling everybody. So that's why I didn't run round panicking, because I'm not insane, and I knew it was pointless. Also, another factor that they didn't consider, because they'd already written a report about me based in the fiction of their religious beliefs, which they think they don't have, was that the most important thing to me is not but having a successful career. Not having a certain status, like in the world, or the way that people view me. That's why they think I want to be a sister, you see, because I want to have this status, like in the world and in the church, have everyone calling me sister, and be wearing fancy dress or something like that, and all of that is going to validate me. And therefore, this is why they don't understand when I complain about people disrupting the prayers, and when it's the thing I focus on more than anything else, because that's the most important thing to me, which is why I wanted to be a sister in the first place. But they're too fucking insane to think rationally about these things, because they're completely captured by the secularist ideology and everything written in their textbooks about what motivates people and what causes psychological distress and all this kind of thing. And the idea that I might be differently motivated from these rich, self-important arseholes had simply never crossed their minds. And then they got really angry, you see, because they couldn't control me. Because I realised, you see, that when I told people to fuck off, it really pissed them off. So then I started telling people to fuck off even more. And they're just saying, like, she's just off her head, she don't know what's going on. She don't know what she's doing. And they were employing people to try and control me through psychological means, because all of their assessment of me was based on the lie that I'd gone mad and started hallucinating because I couldn't be a sister. When in the first place there was no reason to stop me from being a sister. They just pretended that there was. So, it's just, the whole situation is just total shit, made up behind the scenes by people who were extremely hostile towards me, who were controlling, and I use informing in inverted commas because they're not informing anyone of anything, they're just lying to get them to act against me. You know, they used to tell me in the Church of England, oh, you're too sensitive and you read too much into things. Now I found out there's this massive conspiracy going on behind the scenes. It turns out I'm actually rather naive and not nearly suspicious enough. And they were all being controlled behind the scenes by Rowan Williams and then telling me I'm oversensitive and I read too much into things. Because they think they're perfect, you see. They're perfect. Their institution is perfect. No matter what shit they talk, that's the real authentic Christianity, and anyone who deviates from it is wrong. It's just, there's just layer upon layer of this bullshit. And I don't want to be part of it. I stay well away from everybody. I don't involve myself directly with anybody. Like, I'll just make a comment or something and then withdraw. I don't wait for a response or anything. This is why I talk on live streams or on video now, because they've put me in Facebook jail and stopped me from live streaming on Instagram. So it's kind of a live stream because I'm not editing a video or anything like that, but it's just layer upon layer of bullshit and self-deception among these people. So I talk in this way because there isn't anyone to be interrupting me and trying to mind control me with some bullshit. They're just going to make up to be trying to undermine me. It's therapeutic, actually, for me to be able to talk without interruption. And actually, on video, it's kind of better because then they can't be turning off my internet connection in order to disrupt my flow, which is what they usually do. Like put things on like this is a slow connection and sometimes switch it off altogether. So I'm just talking on video and they can't piss about with that. You see, they'd have never put me in Facebook jail if they'd known I wasn't going to just live stream on YouTube, that I'd video it instead, because it's a whole long time processing a video that I film in this way. A live stream, rather. It's quicker to upload the video. So that's backfired on them as well. I mean, the other possibility, I thought of live streaming on TikTok, but I'm not really. I've got a TikTok account, but I've never used it. I don't know how it works, and I don't know how long I can live stream before they cut me off, and I don't want to be dealing with that whole side of things as well. So it's better for me just to video it and upload it to YouTube. They shut down my YouTube account, then I'll just video it and upload it somewhere else. They're constantly pissing around and tinkering here and there behind the scenes and trying to terrorise me. It's just pathetic. I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of all the crap, all the harassment, all the gang stalking, all the perverted filth. Every single thing that they digging at me over and over again, the same shit. It never changes. It's just the same shit over and over and over again. It never changes. I'm tired to the depths of my being of these shitheads and all their bullshit. I'm sick of it. Anyway, number 4. Solomon, having clear knowledge of this harm and this advantage, exclaimed, I knew there was nothing better for humans than to rejoice and do good in life. Ecclesiastes 3:12. By this he indicates that in all events, however unfavourable, we ought rather to rejoice than be disturbed, and bear them all with equanimity, so as not to lose a blessing greater than all prosperity, which is tranquillity of soul and peace in all things, adverse or prosperous. People would never lose this tranquillity if they were to forget ideas and lay aside their thoughts, and also, insofar as possible, withdraw from dealing with others and from hearing and seeing. Our nature is so unstable and fragile that, even when well disciplined, the memory will hardly fail to stumble on things that disturb the soul that was living in peace and tranquillity through the forgetfulness of all. As a result, Jeremiah proclaimed, With the memory I will remember, and my soul will faint in me with sorrow. Lamentations 3:20. Chapter 7. The second kind of apprehension, which is supernatural, imaginative knowledge. Though in our discussion of the first kind of apprehension, the natural, we also gave doctrine for the natural imaginative apprehensions, we find this division suitable because of the other forms and ideas the memory preserves. These are from supernatural apprehensions such as visions, revelations, locutions, and spiritual feelings. When these apprehensions occur, they usually leave an image, form, figure, or idea impressed either in the soul or in the memory or fantasy. At times, this impression is most vivid and efficacious. It is also necessary to give advice about these apprehensions lest they become an encumbrance to the memory and hinder it from union with God in pure and integral hope. 2. I declare that to obtain this blessing, individuals should never reflect on clear and distinct supernatural apprehensions for the purpose of preserving within themselves these forms, figures, and ideas. We must always bear in mind this presupposition. The more importance given to any clear and distinct apprehension, natural or supernatural, the less capacity and preparedness the soul has for entering the abyss of faith, where all else is absorbed. As we pointed out, none of the supernatural forms and ideas that can be received by the memory is God, and the soul must empty itself of all that is not God in order to go to God. Consequently, the memory must likewise dismiss all the forms and ideas in order to reach union with God in hope. Every possession is against hope. As St. Paul says, hope is for that which is not possessed. Hebrews 11:1. In the measure that the memory becomes dispossessed of things, in that measure it will have hope, and the more hope it has, the greater will be its union with God. For in relation to God, the more a soul hopes, the more it attains. And it hopes more when, precisely, it is more dispossessed of things. When it has reached perfect dispossession, it will remain with perfect possession of God in divine union. But there are many who do not want to go without the sweetness and delight of this knowledge in the memory, and therefore they do not reach supreme possession and complete sweetness. For whoever does not renounce all possessions cannot be Christ's disciple. Luke 14:33. Chapter 8. The harm caused from reflection on this supernatural knowledge tells how many kinds of harm there are. 1. Spiritual persons expose themselves to 5 types of harm if they prize and reflect on the ideas and forms impressed within them through supernatural apprehensions. 2. The first is that they will often be deluded in mistaking the natural for the supernatural. Second, they put themselves in the occasion of falling into presumption and vanity. Third, the devil finds ample power to deceive them through these apprehensions. Fourth, doing so would impede union with God in hope. Fifth, for the most part they will be judging God in a lowly way. 3. As for the first, if spiritual persons reflect on these forms and ideas and assign them importance, they will frequently be deceived in their judgment, since no one is capable of knowing perfectly the things that pass naturally through the imagination, or of forming an integral and certain judgment about them. How much less is one able to make judgments about supernatural things which transcend our capacity and occur but rarely. Spiritual persons will often think that the apprehensions are from God, whereas they will be only the product of the imagination. And often they think that what is from God is what the devil is from the devil, and what is from the devil is from God. They will frequently receive, among other images, strong impressions about their own or others' goods and ills, and they hold these to be very certain and true. Yet they will not be true, but utterly false. Other impressions will be true, yet they will judge them false, although this, I believe, is safer because it is usually the outcome of humility. 4. If they escape delusion about the truth, they can still suffer a quantitative or qualitative delusion. They will think the small great and the great small, or as to quality, what is in their imagination, and judge by them to be this particular kind to be this particular kind will in reality be another kind. They will be taking, as Isaiah says, the darkness for light and the light for darkness, the bitter for the sweet and the sweet for the bitter. Isaiah 5:20. Finally, if they are correct in one matter, it will be a wonder if they escape error in another. Even if they do not want to make judgments, it is enough for them to place some importance on these apprehensions for a certain harm to cling to them, at least passively. And if it is not this type of harm, it will be one of the 4 other kinds we shall be discussing. 5. To avoid this evil of being deceived in their judgments, spiritual persons should be unwilling to make judgments about the nature of their experiences or the kind of visions, knowledge, or feeling they have. They should not desire to know this or attribute importance to it except for the sake of informing their spiritual father, so he may teach them how to void the memory of these apprehensions. Whatever these apprehensions may in themselves be, they are not as great a help toward the love of God as is the least act of living faith and hope made in the emptiness and renunciation of all things. I'm stopping there. People spend an awful lot of time talking about me behind my back, and they don't talk to me. Or even if they do, they dismiss what I say, usually on the instructions of other people, but often enough in of themselves. I don't care what anyone else thinks about it. Besides which, they've destroyed so much of my life now. What am I supposed to hope in on this earth? Really? I mean, they don't want to mind control me to think like them in order to help me. Quite the opposite. My hope is in heaven. That's the only reason I've survived. This is one reason why they're trying to undermine Christianity, Christian faith in the West. Well, they have largely undermined it, presented it as oppressive, or as a kind of collectivist force. Like if you're not a member of the group, then you're a non-person. You rely on the group for all your validation. Well, that just isn't possible in the situation that I'm in. And I've seen firsthand how shallow this approach is. And I think when people in the church, especially young people, approach me to cause me a nuisance, they're very surprised that I don't want them near me, I don't want them bothering me. They're not including me in a group, they're excluding me. I don't want to be included in a group that behaves in such a deceitful way. If people are going to be truthful to me and tell the truth and behave in a reasonable way and stop deliberately deceiving me, bring everything into the open, then that's one thing. But I'm not interested in, like, I don't need, it's the opposite of helpful. Having people bothering me at times when I want to be focused on God, when there's been a significant effort to exclude me, not from one group or another, but from the whole of society. The whole of human society has excluded me by conspiring behind my back with psychopaths and Satanists. And no matter how much they think they're helping, and even if I wanted to be involved in this group, it's an impossibility because the only person who's been deliberately deceived in relation to everything and everyone is me. So, I'm the only person who's not included. So having people approach me and bother me during the prayers who think they're helping, it's the opposite of helpful. Not only in the prayers, I mean, but also following me around outside and trying to interrupt moments of contemplation in other places. And then surprised when I don't want them bothering me. Like, you're no use to me. You're making a problem where there wasn't a problem. I was here by myself, except not by myself, because God was with me. And now you've come and insinuated yourself in that. And you wanted me to be paying attention to your head messing crap instead of the truth and beauty of God. I'm not part of the group, so don't approach me pretending. There's never any situation I go to anywhere where I'm not being attacked somehow or other. I'm tired of being attacked. I'm tired of people digging at this and that. Like, I've been going through this all day, every day, for over 16 years. I'm tired to the depths of my soul. I'm fed up of people and their head messing crap and their perverted filth. I'm fed up. I'm just absolutely fed up of it. I'm tired. That's why I can't go out. I'm too tired of arseholes every single moment of every single day. I'm just tired. I'm too tired. I can't deal with it. So, invent what you like about why I'm isolating myself and I don't know what I'm thinking or doing. What bad motives I have, and it can't really be that way or this way or whatever else you've made up in your head. Just do what you like. But until you're going to tell me the truth and be honest, I'm not involving myself. It's a recipe for disaster. I tried to reason with people, you say, so many times, and they just treated me with utter contempt. So there's no point in doing that, I know that. 1,000 times I know it. All I can do is resist the bullshit and withdraw from it. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.